Hello class, and welcome to today's algebra lesson, which is about solving equations involving absolute values. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to solve equations with absolute values. First, it would be helpful to review what an absolute value actually tells us. When we are looking at an absolute value, that is the distance that a number is away from zero. Remember that distance does not care about direction. It is just saying how far something is. So what are the two integers that have an absolute value of 34? The correct answer here is 34 and negative 34. 34 is 34 spaces away from 0 to the right. Negative 34 is 34 spaces away from 0 to the left. So every number can go to two different spaces when we're talking about absolute value. The positive or the negative are both that same distance away from 0. So what does that mean when we solve the equation? It means we actually have to solve it twice. The first case is always using the positive distance. So I want m minus 9 to equal positive 15 because the absolute value of 15 is 15. So I would go through and I would solve by adding 9 to both sides, and that would give me an answer of m is equal to 24. Plugging back in, 24 minus 9 is 15. Absolute value of 15 is 15. On the other side, we have to solve a second part of the problem now, where it's set equal to the negative option. Because if this inside part is equal to negative 15, the absolute value is also 15. So we have a second part of the problem to solve. Again, I'm going to do that by adding 9 on both sides, and I end up with my answer of m is equal to negative 6. If I plug negative 6 back into the equation, negative 6 minus 9 is negative 15. The absolute value of negative 15 is 15. We also want to be able to graph these solutions. So just a reminder, my two answers were m is equal to 24 and m is equal to negative 6. In order to make 24 and 6 fit on the graph, I'm going to go ahead and count by sixes. So I'm going to go up 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 48, or excuse me, not 48, 42, and then 48. And then we have 6 times 9 is 54, and 6 times 10 is 60. Same thing in the opposite negative direction, again counting by those sixes and filling in your number line as you go. If you don't want to fill in every value, you can skip over and just include every other value if it makes it easier for you. But you do have to indicate what you are actually counting by on that number line. Then all you would have to do is put a point at your first and at your second answer. So we put just 2 dots on that graph. Go ahead and solve this one on your own. So the first case, we have it equal to the positive 37. Subtract 7 on both sides, divide by 2, that's going to give you 15. Then we have it equal to the negative 37. Again, subtract by 7 and divide by 2, that gives me the negative 22. When you graph that, I counted by counted by 5s this time and just left that every other space open and put those 2 dots onto the graph. Then we have the absolute value of x plus 9 is equal to negative 15. Notice, not negative 15, negative 52. It is now equal to a negative. So what that is saying now is a positive value, because absolute value always turns positive, is equal to a negative value. We know that is not true. So if you ever have an absolute value equal to a negative, the answer to your problem is going to be no solution. No matter what number we plug in, absolute values can never be equal to a negative value. We can also write and solve problems that involve absolute values by using a specific formula. That formula is going to be x minus the average, so x minus that central point of our data is equal to how much we can change by, whether it's increasing or decreasing, how much we can actually change by. So, in this particular problem, it says it takes approximately 6 minutes for a skydiver to reach the ground after jumping out of the plane. Give or take 30 seconds. What is the minimum and maximum times in seconds that the person is in the air? Notice, it's talking about in seconds, so the first thing I'm going to want to do is convert my 6 minutes into seconds. Every minute has 60 seconds, so that means my 6 minutes is going to be 360 seconds. Then we're going to plug that into our problem. So I want x minus the average amount of time, x minus that central value, which is going to be 360, is equal to, it says give or take, so that means I can go up or down by 30. How much we can change by is on that equal part. Now that I have my equation set, I can split it up into case 1, which is x minus 360 is equal to 30, the positive, to find the maximum value, or x minus 360 is equal to negative 30 to find that minimum value. I'm going to solve both cases the same way by adding 360 to both sides of the problem. And in the first one, I'm going to get that my maximum is 390 seconds. And when I solve the second one, again by adding 360, I'm going to find out that my minimum is 330 seconds. Go ahead, and I want you to start by just writing the equation for this problem on your own. When you are typing it in, if you hold Shift and then the button above the return, that's going to give you that vertical absolute value bars. So go ahead and just write your equation. When you write, you get x minus that central average is 2,000 is equal to the 250 that we can change by. Now go ahead and solve the equation to find the minimum and maximum. This is where we split it into case 1 and case 2. That maximum is going to be 2,250 and the minimum is going to be 1,750 songs. Last thing we're going to do is look at if it gives us the graph, how we can write the equation. We still want to follow that same pattern that we had for the word problems, which is x minus the average, so minus that central point, is equal to how much we can change by. Our job on the graph is to first find what that average point is, so what is in the middle. We can do that by taking our two endpoints, so in this case 24 plus 31, and finding the average of that, so dividing by 2. When I do 24 plus 31, I'm going to get an answer of 55. And when I divide that by 2, that's going to give me 27 and a half. So that means my central point right here is at 27 and a half. Now I need to see how much I can change by. So to get from 27 and a half up to 31, I need a half space and then 1, 2, 3 more spaces. So that's 3.5 spaces up. Or it can be the half space and then 3.5 spaces down to the 24. The spaces should be even. If they are not, that means you have found the incorrect average point. So your final equation here is going to be x minus, in this case, the 27.5, that average central point, is equal to how much we can change by, which in this case is going to be give or take 3.5. So we calculate the average and then figure out how much we can go up or down by. Go ahead and write the equation for this graph on your own. So we find our central point first, and that is at 15. Then I can go up 4 spaces or down 4 spaces, giving me a final answer of absolute value of x minus 15 is equal to 4. If you have questions about this or anything else from the lesson, please feel free to reach out and let me know.